The deep dive is all about turning essential sources into knowledge you can actually use. And today we are tackling, well, one of the absolute scariest things any driver can face.
He really is.
That moment, a peaceful drive just completely changes. An oncoming car crosses that center line and it's heading straight for you.
It's the ultimate driving nightmare,
Yeah.
And statistically, head-on collisions, they carry a disproportionately high fatality rate. It's much higher than almost any other type of crash.
The stakes couldn't be higher.
They couldn't. Survival really comes down to anticipation and a rational response in a moment of just pure shock.
Exactly. So our mission here is to pull out the quick thinking, the precise control, and that sharp awareness that's buried in all the source material we've looked at. We want to structure this knowledge for you, move you past that initial panic.
So you can recognize the danger sooner and respond with some confidence if that moment ever happens.
Okay, let's unpack this. We're starting at the root cause, moving from those subtle signs of trouble to having a clear, actionable plan. We have to ask the big question. What causes a vehicle to drift into the wrong lane in the first place? It's not always, malice or recklessness.
Right, and that's where the sources give us a really great breakdown. We can sort of categorize the causes. First, you have these sudden, often unavoidable, mechanical or external forces.
Okay.
And then you have the far more common ones, simple driver errors.
Let's start with those sudden, chaotic events, the ones you can't really plan for.
So we can begin with what we call loss of integrity events. The dreaded blowout is a perfect example.
A tire blowout.
Exactly. A sudden bursting tire just immediately changes the vehicle's dynamics. It often violently redirects its path across that center line before the driver can even process what's happened. It's an immediate, uncontrolled hazard.
And it's not always an internal failure of the car itself, right? Something can happen to it.
No, absolutely. An external impact can force a vehicle across the line.
Yeah.
This could be a light tap from another vehicle or maybe striking some road debris. That unexpected force, it just acts like a lever, throwing the vehicle completely off its path.
And that ties into the idea of sliding, which is where things like weather come in. A loss of control because there's no traction.
Yes, sliding is a huge external factor. If a vehicle is going too fast for the conditions, say heavy rain, causing hydroplaning or hitting a patch of ice, it loses that grip.
That friction.
That necessary coefficient of friction. And when the wheels lose that grip, the vehicle is it's a projectile. You can't steer, you can't brake effectively, and momentum just carries it right into oncoming traffic.
That makes perfect sense. Okay, now let's shift to the most frustrating category and statistically the most common driver errors. These are the preventable ones.
Absolutely. The number one cause, and you see this in all the safety studies, is simply being oblivious. This is the driver who is distracted or fatigued or just mentally checked out. Their mind is not focused on driving, and they are completely unaware that their car is slowly, smoothly drifting into the wrong lane.
They're essentially piloting a 2-ton weapon without their full attention.
That's a perfect way to put it. Then you have deliberate poor judgment. This often comes from impatience, like aggressive overtaking.
Right.
It's a careless attitude about when and how to pass. They underestimate the speed of oncoming traffic or the distance, and they put everyone at extreme risk.
And what's the last one? The panic move that ends badly?
Swerving. Swerving is almost always an overreaction. A driver panics to avoid something. Maybe a deer runs out or the car head slams on its brakes and they just yank the wheel. This abrupt move into the oncoming lane often creates a much worse accident than the one they were trying to avoid. The source material is very, very clear on this. Swerving into oncoming traffic is almost always the worst option.
So understanding the why helps us anticipate the danger. Maybe you see a driver looking at their phone, or you spot a big patch of water on the road, but let's say that fails. The car is in your lane. The threat is immediate.
This is where we have to move past pure instinct. Because instinct, it often tells you to slam the brakes and just freeze.
Right.
Survival demands a quick, rational process.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because we need to go from theory to action in what, milliseconds? So what is the definitive step-by-step guide from the sources?
It all starts with your mind. Stay calm. Composure is your single most important tool. It lets you access your training instead of just freezing. If you can keep that control, you can move to the next step. Slow down.
And when we say slow down, that means immediate deceleration, but it has to be controlled, right?
Precisely. You lift off the accelerator and immediately apply the brakes. Gently at first, but firmly. This does two things. First, it buys you precious fractions of a second. Second, and this is crucial, it drastically reduces the energy of a potential impact.
The physics of it.
Exactly. Kinetic energy increases with the square of your speed. So if you can drop from 60 to 40 miles per hour, you've cut the destructive energy by more than half. That reduction is everything.
So we slow down, we stay calm, and we try to alert the other driver.
Yes. Use your horn and lights. Lay on the horn, flash your headlights over and over. This is a critical sound and light stimulus to try and jolt that driver back to awareness. If they react, crisis averted.
But if they don't, the next step is the physical maneuver. My instinct would be to yank the wheel as hard as possible. Why is that so wrong?
Because that aggressive movement, it so often leads to a complete loss of control. You end up exchanging one risk for another, a head-on crash for a rollover, or sliding sideways into a ditch.
So what's the correct action?
A controlled move to the side. We're talking about a gentle but firm steering input, maybe a quarter turn of the wheel max, just enough to guide the vehicle toward the shoulder. And at the same time, you have to be scanning for escape routes.
An open field, the ditch, anything.
Exactly. The shoulder, a field, whatever you can use as a last resort.
So we've slowed, moved over in a controlled way, looked for an out. If that car is still coming at us, what's the final step to try and survive this?
If a collision is absolutely unavoidable, you have to prepare for impact. This means bracing yourself, hands at 9 and 3 on the wheel, feet pressed flat on the floor. But the most critical part is trying to angle your vehicle.
Angle it.
Yes, so the impact is more likely to be a glancing blow on the side rather than a direct frontal strike.
Why is that angle so important?
It's all about vehicle design. Cars have crumple zones designed to absorb energy. Hitting at an angle can force that impact into, say, the front quarter panel, which reduces the direct crushing force on you in the cabin. It helps divert energy away from the strongest point, the engine block, so it doesn't get pushed directly into your space.
That sounds like the difference between a severe injury and a survivable one.
It often is. And then after, once everything is stopped and you are safe, you call emergency services. Your priority shifts to getting help and reporting what happened. It's a structured 8-step process.
It turns that complete chaos into a rational decision tree. Okay, so now that we've covered the immediate crisis, let's talk about proactive safety, the skills we use every day so we hopefully never need that checklist. And that starts with judging the distance of oncoming traffic.
Right. And gauging distance is deceptively tricky. The sources give us several methods to use together. The most basic are just visual cues. For instance, a big truck will look closer than a small motorcycle, even if they're the exact same distance away.
You have to mentally adjust for the size.
You do. And then there's relative speed. A vehicle that's growing quickly in your vision is obviously closer and moving faster toward you. This is the basis for the most critical calculation, time to impact, or TTI.
Time to impact.
You have to estimate in seconds how long it will take for that car to reach you.
Is there a rule of thumb for safe maneuvers, like passing another car?
The guidance is pretty clear. If your estimated TTI is just a few seconds, let's say less than 10 on a highway, you absolutely do not attempt to overtake. You can also use fixed objects like signs or trees to help judge that speed against a static background.
And of course, night driving just throws a wrench in all of this. Reduced visibility, headlight glare, it turns it all into a guessing game.
Night driving demands a whole new level of vigilance. You'd think brighter headlights mean a car is closer, but you can't rely on that. They might just have powerful new headlights. Or worse, dim lights might belong to a car that's much closer than you think.
So what are the defensive tactics to counter that glare, that temporary blindness?
First thing is, you have to reduce the light you're putting out. Immediately switch to low beams for oncoming traffic. You don't want to be the one causing them to drift.
Good point.
And for your own vision, you have to actively avoid staring at the headlights.
That seems counterintuitive. Where are you supposed to look?
You shift your focus slightly. Instead of looking at the center of the road where the glare is worst, you look toward the right edge of the road, or the left, depending on where you drive. Use that white line as your anchor. It lets you keep your position without being blinded.
And what about glare from behind, in the rearview mirror?
Ah, yes. You have to make a habit of using the night mode on your rearview mirror. That little flick of a lever changes everything.
Yeah.
And the last thing, a simple one. Clean windows and mirrors, religiously. Dirt and smudges just scatter light and make glare so much worse.
I'm guessing increased following distance and reduced speed are the baseline for all night driving.
They're non-negotiable. Less visibility means less reaction time. You have to build that buffer back in by slowing down and staying further back.
Okay, let's move into some specific and often very confusing traffic scenarios, the ones where the rules about oncoming traffic are often misunderstood.
Yes, we need to clarify the legal differences between stopping, yielding, and just proceeding safely. And a great place to start is with oncoming traffic and school buses.
Right. Does oncoming traffic always have to stop when a school bus puts on its lights?
It depends entirely on whether there's a physical separator. On a two-lane road, or even a multi-lane road without a median no concrete barrier, no grass strip traffic in both directions must stop.
The whole road is a safety zone.
That entire road surface. But once you have a median, the rule changes completely. On divided highways, the law sees that barrier as creating a separate safety zone. So only traffic going the same direction as the bus has to stop. Oncoming traffic on the other side of the barrier can keep going.
That makes sense. The barrier itself provides the protection. Now, what about emergency vehicles? An ambulance with lights and sirens coming toward you. Do you have to slam on the brakes and stop right where you are?
The requirement here is a bit different. Oncoming traffic is not typically required to come to a complete immediate stop. The mandate is to yield the right-of-way.
Yield, not just stop.
Exactly. You do that by safely pulling over to the right side of the road and then stopping, allowing the ambulance to pass. Stopping aggressively mid-lane could cause another accident. And you have to prioritize not blocking intersections. If you're in one, you clear it, then pull over.
Okay, and finally, the most solemn one. A funeral procession. This feels like a legal requirement, but is it?
This is mostly a matter of courtesy, not law. In most places, oncoming traffic is not legally required to stop or yield for a funeral procession.
So the law says we can go, but custom says we should probably yield.
That's the balance, yeah. While you are legally allowed to proceed, it is customary and frankly just respectful and safer for everyone to yield and let the procession pass as a single unit. It's an exercise in courtesy.
This has been a huge deep dive. We've gone from the physics of kinetic energy all the way to the legal nuances of divided highways. We covered the mechanical failures, the 8-step protocol, everything.
So what does this all mean for you? It means you're now equipped to move from being a passive driver to an actively defensive one. And the greatest defense against any of this is anticipation, especially when you factor in bad weather.
Right, because weather fog, rain, snow, it just multiplies every single risk we talked about.
It's the ultimate risk multiplier. It cuts your visibility, it makes headlight glare worse, and most importantly, slippery roads drastically lengthen your stopping distances. So all that vigilance we discussed, checking your tires, cleaning your windows, slowing down, it all becomes mission critical.
And while we focus so much on how to survive other drivers crossing that line, I think we have to end by looking inward at the state of oblivious driving. The source material says your mind has to be focused on the task. If avoiding a head-on crash requires split-second rational decisions, what small daily habit could you implement right now? Maybe putting the phone away or just taking a breath before you drive tired to make sure you are never the oblivious driver. Because true defensive driving, it starts long before you even turn the key.
Please like, subscribe, and get notified.